Yeah. Sorry. Hi. Hi, team.
What was that?
I don't know.
Hi,
Trying
Pat.
to scare the dog. That's what that was. I was trying to scare the dog. Kia ora, Chewy. How are you, sir?
I'm doing okay.
I'm a bit manic, obviously. I apologise. I'll come back. I'll come back down to ground. I think it's because I'm having a hot drink tonight. Oh, look at you. Same time. Hang on. Can we do a cheers? What way do I have to go? No, I go the other way. Hang on.
Oh, this is embarrassing. I'm over here.
Ready? And no, wrong way. That way. Chink, chink. There we go.
Yeah. Wow, smooth.
Just like we've done that before. Kia ora whānau. Welcome back to another show. A bit of a different show tonight. Well, not really, actually. There's just the... we're just going to talk to you about BHN stuff tonight. As someone said in the chat last night, it's a whānau meeting tonight at some stage. But we still have lots of news to talk about and stuff as well, which we'll do first. And then we'll get to it probably 9:30, 9:40ish. Don't go away, but that's probably when we'll get to it, because we'll go through the news first. And look, if I'm honest, you guys might have some questions and you're welcome to ask them. Sorry, I'm just turning off my headphones. So if you're interested to know anything specifically about what we're talking about, you're welcome to join into that conversation. I'm happy to answer questions from the chat and stuff as well, but we'll give you a heads up about 2024 BHN in the second half of this hour. And by second half of this hour, I don't mean this time in the third half of the hour, like we have our 90-minute, 60-minute show. I mean in the second half of the hour. A couple of heads ups. So in the ODT over the weekend, Chewy, you said you saw this, but for people to know, there was an interesting piece about one of the protests, one of the marches, I guess you'd say, for Palestine. And as a part of that protest, there was a letter to Dunedin Muslim community on behalf of the board of the Dunedin Jewish congregation. I said, amongst other things, we are reaching out to you, our Muslim whānau in Dunedin, and to the Palestinian community in Aotearoa, to share our deep sympathies and utter concern for you, for your family, the future of the region and all of its people. Now, I thought that's a really interesting, lovely hand of peace to be extended out. So tomorrow night, we've got the Dunedin Jewish congregation coming on, and they're going to talk to us about what the letter's all about. I did speak to them today, and they did say it wasn't 100% represented perfectly well what we kind of are saying, but yes, let's talk about it. And it's very much that they're coming from an area of, we want peace for the region, and civilians are the innocent bystanders here that we have to be most concerned for. So tomorrow night, I'm here by myself. Chewy's not with me. I shouldn't have said that. No one will turn up. We're going to have them on. And I was thinking as well that I might approach, I haven't done this yet, it's a bit silly saying it, but someone like Anna Brooks, because we are in the fifth wave of COVID. Have you noticed more masks, Chewy? I mean, it's not the majority, but I've noticed a significant uptick in masks in the last week.
There's a few more, and certainly like firsthand, like full disclosure, the reason that I'm not going to be on the show tomorrow is I've got a small surgical procedure tomorrow. And I was having a chat with the admissions nurse today, and they very much confirmed that there was a big uptick in COVID and what procedures were happening at the hospital and that sort of thing. So, yeah, being a little bit more careful again.
Yeah, just walking around town and going to the supermarket. I mean, it's by no way near like a 50-50, but, 2 weeks ago, there might be one elderly person I see in the supermarket every second or third time I visit supermarket yesterday and today, and probably saw 5 or 6 people each time with masks on. Good on them, but just, it's good because some people are paying attention to the news. The news is when we're in our fifth wave of COVID. So, so maybe we'll talk about that tomorrow night as well. But anyway, that's tomorrow night.
Just because I like drawing two straight lines between two completely different, unrelated stories. Yes, we're in the uptick of a COVID upswing, and it's cruise ship season.
Oh, no. And they're coming into town.
Yep.
We had that story from you last time that
I
someone
don't know.
just decided to turn up. They just came in and they were like, "I'm not gonna." They were from the cruise ship and they were walking around town with COVID. Just basically went, "Nah, fuck it."
Yeah, I'm on holiday. Yeah, I don't know if they're picking up or dropping off this time, but yeah, yay cruise ships.
So let's get into this. We've got a couple of little stories that I want to play out there. Sometimes when things just sort of take my interest, I like to share them with the whānau. And of course, we had a story last night about Suella Braverman. Now, I understand that obviously I set that up sort of in the evening, but between setting it up and talking to you guys about it, this news actually came out. And Chewie, you were saying that some people were talking about it in the chat. I'd like to take credit for this, actually, based on our expose last night, but I don't think I can. That the conversation we had last night about Suella Braverman, wake up this morning, saw late last night, that actually she is gone burger. Quite controversial because David Cameron is coming back. How does David Cameron come back and be sworn as an MP?
Fucked, right?
Well, it's because he's been appointed a Lord, and Lords can be MPs, so he doesn't have to be voted in. They're just being appointed. Now, good, bad, or indifferent.
Delicious democracy.
That's the reason they've got it. So let's have a look. It's only a 60-second story from BBC on the demise of Suella Braverman.
Suella Braverman was sacked by Rishi Sunak this morning.
I would love to be having a front page of the Telegraph with a plane taking off to Rwanda. That's my dream.
Suella Braverman, right from the very beginning, was almost deliberately not careful about the words that she used.
To my mind, there's only one way to describe those marches. They are hate marches.
Homeless people in tents have made a lifestyle choice, says Braverman.
It's the Guardian reading, tofu eating, wokarati, dare I say, the anti-growth coalition that we have to thank for the disruption that we are seeing on our roads today.
The wind of change that carried my own parents across the globe in the 20th century was a mere gust compared to the hurricane that is coming. Uncontrolled immigration, inadequate integration.
One of those classic statements from a revolting person about pulling the ladder up, My parents who got to immigrate here and set this life up for me, now the rest of you can fuck off. You know, it's like, it's classic.
Yeah,
Revolting.
Absolutely.
And a misguided dogma of multiculturalism have
which I've been a beneficiary of and you can't.
Proven a toxic combination for Europe over the last few decades.
There you go. Anyway, little update. I don't know if we danced in anyone's grave, but we talked about it last night. And remember the conversation we had last night, and if you didn't see it, you can either, I don't know if I put the clip out today. I've certainly edited the clip. It might be ready to go out tomorrow. Or go look at the show last night. The point we were making was this person who is, further to the right than most politicians. This is a warning to people like David Seymour and Winston Peters, although I don't think Winston Peters is genuinely further to the right. I think it's the card he's playing this time. I think David Seymour is. And as Bomber talked about last week, which we shared again last night, these people who let these things out of the bottle, takes the cork off, lets the genie out, whatever, pulls the cat out of the bag, they have to then take responsibility for all the breakages that come from that. She is one of them. And obviously it became too much for the incumbent government. And she's been booted. Mostly, it seems the final straw, it seems, was her accusing the police of playing favourites at the protest, that they looked after the left-wing protesters, but they wouldn't help the right-wing protesters. That seems to be the final straw, Chewie.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it would be great if politicians owned the shit that they stirred up, right? But
yeah,
I wouldn't hold my breath there.
All right, that's it. That's the first one. Second one as well. Do you remember Carrie Lake? You know much about Carrie Lake, the politician in America?
Oh, yes.
The one that's got her nose firmly up Donald Trump's asshole, and as most people seem to think she's trying to pitch to be a deputy running mate. Tried to win in, I think, Arizona twice, lost both times. Took the Trump handbook out and said, it's been stolen from me. I was the winner. So she was being interviewed by a Republican conservative blogger, media person called Tim Miller. And they had an interaction at the end of the conversation. And you can tell because they're about to leave that is just chef's kiss. Mwah, perfectly and beautifully. Remember, he is Republican. That's where he votes. But he is also someone who won't take any shit and wants to speak the truth. And I've just got this to play for you to see if you enjoy it.
I'm not okay with that. I want you to be able to talk whatever you guys say on the circus. I want to be able to have conservative students not being shamed on our
This is
universities.
like a golden age for conservative student speech. It's like, it's the best time ever. If you're a conservative student, you want to talk, you have huge platforms. I went to watch you speak at Turning Point USA. All these kids had huge audiences that come to see them, and that's great, that's fine. They're all...
This is the victim mentality. The right who always talk about snowflakes on the other side, they are actually, it's a projection thing. The victim mentality that all our views are being oppressed as they've got 17 million Twitter follows and speaking on all the biggest news platforms. And this is the conservative commentator himself saying, this is actually a really good time for conservative voices.
All speaking, their speech isn't under threat. There weren't any cops coming to shut down the Turning Point USA thing. But here's the thing. You say you care about the fentanyl crisis and our kids.
I care deeply.
Okay, right. So if you care so
How
deeply
many
about this,
people-
couldn't you actually do something about it if you stopped the bullshit about the last election? If you had just acknowledged that Trump had lost and acknowledged that you had lost, you'd probably be in good shape to do something. You probably would have won your governor's race had you just talked about things people cared about instead of the election fraud. So sometimes don't you ever think to yourself, I wish I could just stop talking about this fake thing that Donald Trump made me make up so that I could actually talk about the stuff that's important? Because we agree about fentanyl. I agree. I wish we could deal with that.
I talked about that all the time at the campaign trail. I'm sorry you weren't with me.
watched you.
I'm sorry you weren't with me every step of the way. The people of Arizona understand me, and they know me, and they care about me, and I care about them. And I care about them. Getting them better, freeing the people who are held political prisoners. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. I think you're still a little extreme. That's okay though. It's good to see you again.
It's
we can
wonderful
keep
to see.
doing this.
That's right.
We
I'd
can
love
keep doing
to.
this. We have some areas of agreement.
Love to.
We agree on the fentanyl thing.
And
then you get into the other stuff.
Oh,
But the other
sorry,
stuff is what
I'm
you
not
have
making.
to do. The other
I'm
stuff's what
sorry,
you have to
I'm
do
not
to
making
win.
you happy.
The other stuff is what I don't know why
Listen.
you're touching me. The other stuff is what you have
I
to
know.
do to win. Is the thing. That's
Sorry,
the thing.
I'm a mom.
You have to
I'm
do-
sorry, I'm a
that's
mom.
okay. I like to touch too, but
yeah.
you know, in an interview setting, it's a little uncomfortable.
I'm sorry that we don't agree on everything, but what I am not sorry about is that I think that I do believe that we can agree that we both love America.
We do. Well,
Oh, for
I know that I
God's
love America.
sake.
I do think that you were okay with Donald Trump trying to end the American experiment last time, so that makes me wonder how sincere your love is. But I
Okay.
do appreciate it.
Thank you for your time.
Good.
There you go. As a little chef's kiss, Chewy, you want to
Wow,
comment
that
anything on
was
that? It's
awkward. That was the most insincere interaction from someone basically cosplaying being an empathetic human being. Oh, yuck. That was gross.
yeah, vomit, but people are vomiting. Literally, people are vomiting. Well, not literally because it's an emoji, but you know what I'm saying. Look in the chat. But you know how great that there is someone who is even on her side of politics that's still prepared to go, let's just stop all this bullshit, because that's what's happening in America at the moment. Obviously, this week there were some pretty big votes that came in. Republicans lost all of them. They lost all of them. You know, several states. I think no, it wouldn't be Colorado. One of the states codified recreational cannabis. Other states codified abortion rights within their constitution, so it couldn't ever be taken away. And the Republican Party is fighting all of these battles, all of these culture war battles, and they're losing. And so when you look at next year's presidential election, I still don't think it's anyone's to win or lose, especially if Joe Biden's running. Anyone against Trump wins except Biden, and then it's a toss-up, in my opinion. But if they can tag, and he's been bragging about the Supreme Court, and if they can tag that to him through the election cycle, the Supreme Court, the overturning of Roe versus Wade, has been losing all these local elections. So if they can tag that to him based on his own words, that might be the way to get through without a Donald Trump at the end of next year. Maybe.
I mean, I think that guy, DIY Guru in the chat saying that he's a former Republican PR manager. I find that he had a real nugget of truth there, that like maybe if you were essentially a bit more authentic and talked about what people cared about and that sort of thing. And obviously they've got a button issue about fentanyl or whatever. But yeah, they're hitting the culture war. They're hitting the election stolen. They're hitting these things that stir up a lot of press, but not necessarily a lot of follow through, because they're not issues that people deeply care about. You want to win elections and hold elections, or hold results from elections, then you tap into what people actually give a shit about. And I'm sure, like, if you'd logged into Facebook comment forum or Twitter or something like that, it looks like people give a shit about these things.
Yeah.
There's certainly a lot of engagement, and that's good for the algorithm, right? But it's not deep.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I hear you. And there's people already talking about Trump in the chat. This is the last part of these little snippets I want to show you from what went through my algorithm today. First thing I want to show you is actually Bill Maher, and a little compilation of Bill Maher saying this.
I don't see him leaving willingly. I don't see
Donald
him
Trump
leaving under any condition.
Leaving the White House.
People knocking on the door with guns. But he'd be Scarface. I just don't see this man giving it up. And I just think he has many cards he hasn't played until he wants to leave. I don't think he would even leave if he lost an election in 2020. Oh, I'm the guy who says he's not leaving even if he loses the election. No. People have been saying I'm an alarmist and I'm crazy because I keep saying he's not going to leave even if he loses.
As you can see, the clip goes on for another 70 seconds, and it's him saying that over and over and over and over and over and over again. And he did say that, Trump, that was his projection, that Trump wouldn't leave. And of course, Trump left. And we're all a bit like, I understand what you're saying. He's going to put up a big fuss, but he eventually left. So one of Trump's lawyers, there's been footage of one of Trump's lawyers, Jenna Ellis, from her deposition released today. I want to play it to you, and then we'll talk about Trump not leaving office if he gets in this time. This is them talking about pre-2020, right?
Okay. And at the time period where they were going to start to discuss, what was Dan Scavino's role?
At the time, I believe his title was social media director for the White House. It became deputy chief of staff at the time that the conversation in question took place.
Okay, and when was that?
The conversation was around December 19th of 2020 at the White House Christmas party. And I emphasized him. I thought that the claims and the ability to challenge the election results was essentially over, because he said to me in a kind of excited tone, well, we don't care and we're not going to leave. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, the boss, meaning President Trump, and everyone understood the boss, that's what we all called him. He said the boss is not going to leave under any circumstances. We are just going to stay in power. And I said to him, well, it doesn't quite work that way, you realize. And he said, we don't care.
Okay.
There you go. So from his lawyer, I guess you'd have to say allegations of, but most people are looking at this and thinking truth. Bill Maher was correct in what Trump had a desire to do, not leave no matter what, according to his former lawyer, one of his former lawyers. But in practice, I guess he did. But very interesting, Joey?
Yeah, it is interesting. And like, we've gone through the bizarro mirror into the bad place several times, but it's a view into something that could have been a hell of a lot worse.
Yeah,
a hell of a lot worse. There's some comments in the chat that, like, this sort of stuff is going to keep on ticking and bubbling away, right? All the polls suggest that Trump is, even now, the front runner for the Republican nomination.
You add all the other nominees up and they still don't get to the same number as Trump has by himself.
That's fucking insane. And then I think the Democrats have exactly the same problem that they had last time round, is if the other side's going full on populist, full on crazy town, strap in, this is going to be a wild ride, Saturday Night Live writers are going to be stoked. But the Democrats are going to run with the same old neoliberalism that they've always done, and nothing to really combat the real problems that people in America see. They could tap into a massive movement of people that are just disheartened with how the things are, but they won't do it. Yeah. They won't do it. And they don't have a third alternative.
Well, that's the thing. It's also the idea that we talked about prior to the last election that Labor cocked up. It's give me something to vote for. And respectfully to Joe Biden, there's been some pretty big things that have got through in this term. A lot of Americans, when they look at him, they don't see something to vote for. even though you can't really question what he's managed to get through in this. If you actually look at the list of accomplishments, it's been pretty spectacular. But they don't look at someone to vote for. And as you say, Chewy, they see same old, and you've got the Tasmanian devil in one corner, and you've got a baby seal in the other with big eyes, looking just like it's gonna just be there always, as it always has. It's fairly terrifying to think. If it is Joe, look, this is going to sound horrible, but if Joe Biden sees the next election, basically talking about his age, nothing else, and if Trump's not sitting in a jail cell, there was commentary I read this week that talks about there's an expectation if he's found guilty, he can do nothing but go to jail. Now, I of course think a president going to jail is ludicrous, but it might mean there's a home detention or somewhere how he can't actually be president. I don't know. So I guess we'll see what happens.
I think the other thing that's worth pointing out is, we can talk about that left-right paradigm over in the States. It is not what we see over here. If you're properly left in the US, you have nobody and nothing. You are not involved in the presidential race at all.
Yeah.
Correct. It's a two-party system, and the left is completely ignored. Yeah. The American left is our right of center.
It's basically a centrist candidate and a right-wing candidate. That's the two candidates that are going to be there.
And again, I think we're going to get commentators like ourselves, but with a budget. Basically talking about the issues and the policies and the budgets and that sort of thing, and they're going to do exactly what we did here in New Zealand. Is that's cool and all, and it's great that one team actually has a coherent plan, but the other guy is just spitting vibes, and people will vote on vibes.
Yeah,
and I don't think anybody's really got an answer for that. Like you said, Biden's turn at the wheel has been reasonably solid. He's turning the economy around. There's been some good wins, but it's not sexy.
No, it's like when you do renovations on a house and you do all the plumbing. It's not the stuff that the real estate agent comes and sees. It's all the stuff behind the scenes that makes the house imperative to work and operate operate better. But it's not a flash marble bench that you see or a gold tap.
No, all the houses that I looked at when we were looking to buy, you'd see the carpets done, and you'd see all the easy rooms done, and then the kitchen and bathroom maybe had a coat of paint.
Yeah,
with the same fixtures from the 60s, because doing kitchens and bathrooms is fucking hard.
Yeah, tell me about it. Spider Who, thanks for the super chat, mate. $5 there. The reason Trump won is because the Dems thought it was not possible he could win, so didn't vote. Now they know, so hopefully they'll get out and vote. Oh, there's a saying I remember about that from our election about the left getting out and voting.
Oh, maybe we should spin up the merch store, but with a US address.
A red, white, and blue on it. A red, white, and blue. If the left vote, the left win. Appreciate you, Spider Hoof. Thanks for your super chat and for the work you do. All right, let's keep moving, because I want to have a listen to a bit of a conversation that happened on News Talk ZB this morning. They have a international correspondent, a geopolitical analyst on called Geoffrey Miller, and they were talking to him basically about Israel this morning, and he said some interesting stuff. So I want to share it. It's just 3 short clips. We give News Talk ZB's coverage more time than News Talk ZB does, because they have to get to the next ad break. But we'll play half of the interview and we'll give it more time than they give it. So the first part of the conversation, Mike Hosking asks Geoffrey Miller if Netanyahu is standing on firm ground. Like, is he solid in where he's at in his, leadership at the moment?
Oh, I think they're building up to it, Mike. I think we're day 39 of this war now, and I think we must be approaching the end game. Israel has met a lot of its objectives now. They're working on, of course, destroying the command center that Hamas has under the Al-Shifa hospital. I think Israel knows that they don't have much longer. I think there's talk now that they see there's a 2 to 3 week window left before it just becomes intolerable, the lack of a ceasefire. You're seeing a bit of a fracturing in the West with Emmanuel Macron from France calling for the ceasefire. And even I think the US is showing some disquiet when you look at some of those statements from Antony Blinken and Jake Sullivan.
So he's suggesting there might be 2 or 3, it sounds horrible, but I'll use blunter words. There might only be 2 or 3 weeks left that Israel can bomb the shit out of Gaza before the international pressure that's currently building, including from leaders in the Western world, will be too much that they'll basically have to stop, Chewy. I've got more to play, but do you want to speak to that at all?
I think the timeline is right. I think they're going to achieve what they set out to do, and then maybe some sort of soft occupation. I am less optimistic that it's going to be because of public opinion.
Really?
I honestly think that Israel does not give a single fuck, and they think that they can weather the storm.
I don't think necessarily Macron and Joe Biden taking a stand would be considered public opinion. I understand what you're saying. I think what he's saying is international pressure. I think that has to come from leaders with a spine, not like ours, who refuse to say it, as we talked about last night, but leaders with a spine. And look, America could stop this tonight by saying, well, we're not going to send you any more aid unless you do a ceasefire. Conversation's finished. They do a ceasefire. But they go down like a bag of cold sick in America, unfortunately. All right, the second conversation is asking about that, the end game. Is a ceasefire the end game? Right? Is that actually what, for end game as far as Israel's concerned? Or is there something coming after this initial sort of incursion, attack, bombing run? So what's the end game?
I think probably Israel will just say that its objectives have been met, and they'll move into a new phase. I mean, I think this war has got there's a lot to play out, and it will be the end of the major combat operations, if you like. But we're going to see a long-running insurgency. I think Hamas is not going to just go away just because their tunnels have been bombed, but it will turn into a long-running occupation. Israel is very clear that they're going to occupy Gaza.
And let's just play the last clip because it comes from the same part of the conversation. So does Israel just occupy Gaza forever? That's the question. Are they just talking about occupy? Are they just going to stay there forever? Are they going to be on the wall forever? Are they going to be in Gaza forever to make sure this doesn't happen again?
I think for the foreseeable future, because if they don't, Hamas will just have free reign. I mean, who else is going to do it? The UN isn't in the business of running countries or Gaza strips. So, if Israel doesn't do it, then Hamas will simply have an easier job of regrouping. I think they're still going to regroup, even if Israel does occupy it. And I think perhaps the best comparison is the Iraq War, when the US declared victory, mission accomplished back in 2003. And then the real war almost began after that point, the insurgency against US troops that were occupying Iraq. I think that's probably one of the better comparisons that we have at this point, but it's really anyone's guess, of course, exactly how it all transpires.
Well, we'll see.
There you go. I'm sorry for you precious people out there who heard two words from Mike Hosking. I know that's like nails down the blackboard for many people, but there you go. So
that's what Mike's minute should be, by the way.
Nails
Two
down the
syllables
blackboard.
out. Yeah,
Netanyahu's on firm ground. Ceasefire is not necessarily the end game. There'll be something after that, and Israel will occupy Gaza for the foreseeable future. 3 points to come out of that conversation, Chewy. What do you think?
Yeah, it's going to be an occupation. Like they've talked about demilitarizing Gaza like it was an actual functioning country with an organized military force. I have real problems with it being called a war as well. A war is when there's two armies fighting, and there was only one. I can't see Israel packing up and turning around and going home. And maybe they're so confident in their abilities because they have been doing an occupation of the West Bank and stuff like that, that they will have a better run of it than America had in Iraq and in Afghanistan and in various other places historically that they've tried to have an occupation. And yeah, it'll be a messy urban insurgency, as they mentioned. And the same thing will keep coming, is that the civilians stuck in the middle are going to be the ones that will pay the price. It's real hard to tell, if a kid throwing a rock at a tank is a real threat, or whether he's got an IED or something like that. So it is horrible. All the points he made. The UN is not in the business of running a country or getting a country up to speed. They're not going to send the peacekeepers in as much as I wish they could. I don't think America is going to piss Israel off too much. Even if they don't need the aid, they're still going to get it. And as much as I want focus to be on this, and as I want Israel to reap some consequences of just the massive psychotic overreaction that they've done.
Yeah.
So we can get back to the business of Ukraine kicking Russia out of their territory. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. All right, listen, we know we've got a family meeting coming up shortly. It's interesting, I saw some of the chat going past, people saying, oh, it feels like mum and dad are going to tell us there's a divorce. No, we've got no problems. Everything's okay. Stay with us, whānau. But it is important for us to pay attention to the biggest story, perhaps, and maybe not the biggest story, or the war in Gaza is probably the biggest story in every country in the world, if we gave it due credit. But New Zealand's biggest story is probably this coalition that's still going on. And it seems, I did something interesting, Chewy, before I started up. I went to AI and I said, AI to draw an image, to generate an image. You could do it and see what you come up with. And the image I tried to generate was New Zealand politician Winston Peters dressed as Where's Wally. And that's what I wanted to use as a thumbnail, because I was like, where's Winston? Nobody really knows. I got some really interesting pictures that came back. None of them look like Winston Peters. So I didn't bother using it. I gave it away pretty quickly. I've actually got both One News and News Hub stories to play tonight because they both kind of take a slightly different angle, and it's worth us being fully informed as to what's going on. So let's have a look at what One News said about the coalition talks today, and where in the world is Carmen Winston Peters at the moment.
Despite the National and ACT leaders waiting patiently in the capital, Winston Peters was nowhere to be found, wheeling and dealing from Auckland instead. This time a month ago, Christopher Luxon was writing his victory speech for election night. Today, he's still searching for the wording for his coalition deal. Political editor Jessica Mackay has the latest.
The mundane comings and goings of politicians are never more closely monitored than during coalition talks. The Prime Minister-elect trying to remain upbeat despite being in political no man's land.
How are the negotiations going?
Oh, look, we've made great progress, but this week's an important one. We've got issues to close out with both parties, and we're going to work our way through that.
One issue all three leaders are yet to get in the same room, despite hoping today was the day.
What a piss take.
That's disgusting. I mean, it's disgusting based on Christopher Luxon's absolute disparaging, mocking diatribes around how long the vote count was taking. So to be taking this long to even, I'm not even talking about getting a conclusion, but even getting in the same room based on his own standards is an abomination. Based on my standards, I'm like, it takes a few extra days, no big deal. But based on his standards is an abomination, yet he won't own it. He will not own it.
Our intention is to continue to progress our conversations with each individual party and then actually bring everybody together.
We're narrowing the range of issues that we need to agree on so we can have a stable and united government, and that work will continue this week, hopefully quickly.
The trouble is, the other player in the coalition trinity was nowhere to be found, leaving it to his poetic deputy.
At the appointed hour, the man will arrive.
What's the appointed hour?
Pardon? No, we'll just have to tie-ho.
He's not fucking Gandalf.
Work is happening despite the physical absence at the moment of our rangatira.
Instead of a whirlwind of world leader meetings in San Francisco, Christopher Luxon is grounded, cancelling his flights today and announcing outgoing Trade Minister Damien O'Connor will get the glory instead.
Are you gutted not to be going to AP?
Oh, look, it would have been nice, but the reality is this is more important. You know, it's important we form a strong, stable government for New Zealanders, and that's what we're going to do.
Taking longer than you thought?
No, but it is what it is, and we'll take as much time as
it takes to get it right. Look, it's another day. It's another day of negotiations.
From lunch breaks.
Kia ora, kia ora. No, we've filled up the puku.
I'm getting some lunch.
To coffee runs.
Is that for Winston Peters? Have you seen him today?
This one's for me, and this one's for Nicola Willis. Christopher Luxon doesn't drink coffee, so no coffee for Christopher Luxon.
It's all getting a bit ridiculous.
I appreciate it's taking a bit more time, but this week we'll make some good progress.
This week, he says, and so we wait.
And there's been an update this afternoon, Jess. What can you tell us?
Christopher Bishop's
I
got
understand
those coffees.
that coalition negotiators are now arguing over words and phrases. So we're really into the nitty-gritty of that document.
I wonder if any of those words or phrases include the 3 words foreign buyers tax. I wonder if those are any of the 3 words that are being argued over.
Winston Peters was in Auckland today, but he spoke on the phone several times to Christopher Luxon to try and thrash out the deal. I'm told that the 3 leaders will meet tomorrow for the first time in person, although it's not confirmed whether it will be in Wellington or in Auckland. In terms of timing of a coalition deal, I'm told by insiders that there's still a bit of water to go under the bridge yet. Once that meeting takes place tomorrow between the 3 leaders, then we will have to have that agreement actually dotted the I's and crossed the T's, and all of the parties agree. Then that document will go out separately to the party boards, but there is still a possibility that we will get a deal by the end of this week.
I don't. I mean, maybe. I mean, if they are just talking about the crossing the T's and dotting the I's, it could also mean it's quite close. I'll play the News Hub story shortly, but what are your initial thoughts, Chewy?
Well, I think that this just shines a light on what an absolute rookie amateur Luxon is. Going into any sort of negotiation with Winston, making broad promises of we're going to crack on and we're going to get this solved and all of that sort of thing. Winston's going to be sitting there going, okay, so time is my biggest ally here. If I can drag this out, then that's going to count. Now, I noticed a comment there that we have somehow missed the point that this is the longest the longest coalition negotiation ever. That's not what we're talking about. Negotiations happen as long as they take, as Luxon did say. But the thing was, Luxon said beforehand that he was going to crack on and this was going to be no problem and everyone's on the same page. And Winston, he doesn't know Winston, but he knows that Winston is going to just bend the knee real quick. Everybody that follows politics knows that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
And and his bitching about counting the special votes as being the big thing that was holding up the transfer of power and the forming of a government. Absolute bullshit. We know he wants to go to APEC. And again, that he showed his belly to Winston. He showed him all of the pressure points where Winston can there's a lot of things that I think Winston's not great at. But being a tough negotiator and an absolute menace, an agent of chaos in any sort of negotiation, that is Winston's wheelhouse. He lives there. He built it.
Man, the things that he is not that good at, one of them might be passing a healthy stool. I don't think he'd be very good at that. There'd be some other things as well. But look, I just think that it's very... here's why they might get through an agreement quite quickly now. I firmly believe Winston was making a point with this. Tova O'Brien wrote about it this morning, I think, but we talked about this in the last few days, is that as soon as Christopher Luxon said, got to get to APEC, got to open up New Zealand for business, Winston went, do you, sunshine? All right.
Really?
So why don't we just hold this up for a little while, and then you won't be able to get there, and then you'll look foolish. And that's what's now coming out in the press quite a lot, the inexperience of Luxon that this is causing. You just brought out the thing again about, I don't even know him. We said this yesterday. I tweeted this yesterday in the afternoon.
I don't even know. He doesn't even go here, Pat.
No, I don't know. I don't even know Winston Peters. And the way he's run this is evident of that. We talked about that last night. I see Tova wrote about that again today as well. I wonder if she was listening to us, Chewy. But it's very evident that he doesn't know Winston Peters, because this is not how you treat Winston Peters. Love him or hate him, Winston Peters will force you to bend the knee to him if you need him. Now, it sounds pretty horrible, but that's how he operates. Luxon hasn't bent the knee because Luxon's come in like a CEO and he's treating this like a business merger. Right? Got to merge these businesses together. We've got to make sure everybody wins and this and that, and I'm going to win and you're going to win. And Winston's just going, nah, I'll just bide my time, and then I'll make sure that we win by 60% and you get 40% because you need me, Mr. Luxon.
Politics is not business, and this is why Luxon's a rookie. The rules are different. The players are different. The objectives are completely different. You can't run a country like a business. You can't run a government like a business. You can't run a political party like a business. And you can't run a coalition negotiation like it's a business merger.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work like that.
So what
and
he's
he's
been
showing
promising
his
the
whole
time.
ass and failing for this.
So what he's been promising the whole time, it's basically because of his business experience, as we've been saying for 6 months, will mean nothing when you get into these kinds of negotiations. But let's have a look at the News Hub take on this. It's a lot of the similar information, but, it's interesting just to get a couple of takes to make sure we're right up to play with where they're at.
Into windy Wellington they landed. 1.
We've got a great week ahead of us. We're going to make some progress.
2.
I don't think anyone's in a position to say that they're certain when this finishes because there's 3 different people and everyone says they want it to go faster. I certainly do.
But 2 spent the whole day waiting for 3.
The threesome is going to happen today.
Well, I think there may well be a meeting of 3, yes.
The New Zealand First Caucus gathered.
So that goes to show Winston neutering. So this morning, David Seymour was saying, yes, I think the 3 of us will get together today. And Winston went, not today, sunshine. I will just get there when I'm there. You 2 young fellas will wait for me on bended knee. And when I get there, then we'll meet. So you can just go to show even...
Winston's going to ride his horse up the steps of Parliament rather than turn up at Wellington Airport.
All right, we'll get to the end of this, shall we?
No public sign of their chief. He was playing the ultimate game of hide and seek.
Howdy folks, where's the boss?
No, we're on our way to have a group solidarity lunch.
Without the boss?
No, well, those discussions are still well and truly underway.
Is it true you guys are at an impasse and come up with negotiations?
No.
His team either out of the loop or in on the game.
Come on, Jonesy, you must know if Winston's here.
I'm told that David and Mr. Luxon are here.
This is not a case of 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Ultimately, 3 have to agree, and everyone can get into the blame game of saying, well, it's those guys. I think it's fair to say that each party has issues that the other one doesn't like so much, and I think each party knows that they're going to have to come to a compromise.
But compromise is not a quick trick. Christopher Luxon had to finally fold on his...
Yeah, but we were told it was. This is the thing. Compromise is not a quick trick, but we've been told all the way through that Luxon will be on to this and that he's a master negotiator and a master debater. We think that as well. And that this will be an easy job. So for Dana Lynch to say now, but it's not a quick trick. Why aren't you saying the rest of the sentence out loud, which we were promised it would be? That's actually one of the important parts about this conversation. And our our new hairless leader doesn't get to go off to APEC and get a shirt.
His target of flying to San Francisco for APEC.
Is this starting to get embarrassing for you?
We made great progress. We're going to get going this
Why
week.
don't you have a deal yet?
Good to see you. Take care.
National's tax policy a sticking point for everyone.
Do you reckon you're going to be able to get this tax issue resolved this week?
Look, I certainly hope so.
News Hub understands both ACT and New Zealand First were unhappy with being lowballed by National.
National and Christopher Luxon overestimated their ability to get a deal.
Look, I think if you look at the way that it's played out, it's starting to take longer than people had expected. Some people want a fast deal. I think it's more important to get a good deal. And as I've said...
But only one of those partners was happy enough to fly in to meet National.
There you go. There's your stories, people. And I have got actually, if you're interested, Jerry, I'll bring it up. I've also got the sort of 90 seconds of, it's 90 seconds of that stand up with Seymour at the airport. Because you know how Luxon's, I will play this, Luxon's been telling us we don't do these negotiations in front of a camera, we don't, well, loose lips and all that. Mr. Seymour, as we've been saying, a bit more keen to share his views on how the negotiations are going.
Is Christopher Luxon going to get his foreign buyers tax?
Look, I think ultimately ACT is not opposed to that. However, I understand from some media reporting that New Zealand First may be. I guess at the end you've got to have 3 parties prepared to sign up to a program that's coherent because the challenges that New Zealand faces from the outside, just balancing a budget, difficult geopolitical situation, those are going to be much greater than any challenges within the government.
Are you feeling certain?
So he's confirmed in front of the cameras that Winston Peters is the sticking point for the ban. And we all knew that, but Luxon refused to. But Seymour's just done it.
And that you'll get a deal done by the end of the week?
Look, I don't think anyone's in a position to say that they're certain when this finishes, because there's 3 different people and everyone says they want it to go faster. I certainly do. I think a lot of people watching and listening would love to see this be got on with. But equally, no one person can decide how a negotiation between 3 ends or when it ends.
Do you see it as any one particular person holding up the negotiations?
No, I don't, because ultimately 3 have to agree, and everyone can get into the blame game of saying, well, you know, it's those guys. I think it's fair to say that each party has issues that the other one doesn't like so much, and I think each party knows that they're going to have to come to a compromise. Our hope is that happens as rapidly as possible.
You three musketeers will get around the table today?
Well, it's a new title.
You're welcome.
Anytime. Look, I think that that's very possible. We're certainly very happy to meet anyone, anytime, and we're all in Wellington now. So that.
Let's hear this. We're all in Wellington now. They weren't. Look, it happened today. It didn't. So it'd be interesting to know. He said in this interview, which was this morning off the plane, is any one person holding this up more than the others? He said no. I wonder what he'd say this evening, seeing Winston didn't bother to join them.
That's got to make it easier.
To use your language that you used last night, so the threesome is going to happen today.
Well, I think there may well be a meeting of 3, yes.
So there you go.
I love him getting all flustered over the term threesome. Fantastic.
There you go. There's the situation at the moment. The coalition of cookers, the coalition of parents, the alliance of arsehole, as Bomber calls them.
They came up with the term themselves, and it applies. It's the coalition of chaos.
Yep.
It's just not the one that they thought it was.
It's projecting.
Yeah. It's absolutely projection. It's always projection. Look, I kind of had the feeling that making Luxon miss APEC is that's the one that stung. That's really going to take the wind out of Luxon's sails. And I think now that that's done, Winston will come in and pretend that he had nothing to do with that. And he's always been cooperating. I think if you've got 2 governments that are like hard pressed on austerity, I don't think Winston's ever been about austerity. He's certainly, as you've said, he's going to be against the foreign buyers, because that's always been his issue. He's going to be against any change in the retirement age.
Yep.
Which is something that I agree with. Whether he will go further and go, well, we need to find a way to fund it, or not. But those are going to be some real sticking points. I can't see him budging on those 2 points.
I can neither see him budging or wearing budgie smugglers. Neither of those things. From
that's unpleasant. Maybe he just didn't make it to Wellington because he couldn't find his. He had his house slippers, but he couldn't find his shoes. He lost his car keys, his tickets.
I got to do that now. I have to do it. I'm sorry. My AI generator.
Winston Peters looking for his house slippers.
No, and budgie smugglers. I'll see what comes up. I wonder what it will be. Anyway, any chats up there? There's a couple of super chats. Do you want to throw them out?
Yep. What do we got here? Dave Monster with the $2 super chat. Thank you very much. I love that Winston is making him look so foolish. I kind of agree with that. Look, I'm not a big fan of Winston coming back into the house. I'm not. I'd much rather he was gone, especially with the rhetoric that he was leading with in the run up to the election. But the silver lining to this is that he is doing what Winston does and just being a complete agent of chaos, and is making Luxo Flakes just eat his words, and that's a little bit worth it. It's a little bit worth it right now. Why have you done? Why are they so ill-fitting? What is that body?
The prompt is New Zealand politician Winston Peters in Speedos. That's what AI generated for us.
That's unpleasant. We got another super chat here. just so we can.
I'm sorry, I won't sully the super chat. I've taken it down.
No. JC, very kind, $5. Thank you very much. Sending in number 2 will be seen as a big insult by Mr. CEO Man. And let's be honest, Shane Jones is not the brain trust there. Most of his comment to the media was about lunch, which I think fits.
He's also been
will
flippant
it be
on
seen?
purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. Not a super chat, but worth highlighting. Gareth here says, so Christopher Bishop is Nicola's coffee bish.
I like that one.
Yeah, interesting.
Very good. All right. Are we done?
Yep.
So let's have a chat, Whānau. How are you all tonight? Any questions that you want to throw in there? More than happy to hear your thoughts.
There's the first thought.
The
pat form.
The pat form.
It's not bad.
So
it's not bad.
It's not bad. It's not bad. So as you know, Whānau, this is now family meeting time. If you're not regular family and you don't want to know what's happening for BHM for 2024, then we can catch you tomorrow night from 9 p.m. But if you want to stick around, I would like to talk to you a little bit about next year. And it's something we've been promising to talk to you about for the last few weeks, but things have come up. We're going to do it last Thursday and Chewy was away. We're going to do it on Monday, but Mondays are always busy. I didn't want to have this conversation when we had a merch drop going, because I wasn't keen just to get everybody to all of a sudden run off and get merch for wrong reasons sort of things, because I guess that's probably showed my hand already. What we need to talk to you about is 2024 involves funding. It's as simple as that. We have been doing this off our own bat 4 nights a week this week. March of last year, I think we started this, and through last year we did it 5 nights a week, or 5 days, 5 afternoons, then 5 nights a week. Chewy has been with me, doing this with me all of this year. I don't know, Chewy, what has there been? 5 times you haven't been here? Maybe 10 max?
Yeah, not many.
Yeah, if any, as Scribe once said. I've been here every single night. I've been on every single show because I've had to. And we need to have a chat with you about funding. Let me get this out there from the start. We want to continue next year. Is that fair, Chewy?
Yeah.
If I could wave my magic wand, it would be that we're doing this full-time next year with probably 2 other full-time staff members. That would be the dream. That's why I bought a lotto ticket last week when lotto was at $8 million. I didn't win, by the way. But if I had have won, we wouldn't be having this conversation. We'd just be saying, hey, someone found funding for us, and it would be lotto. And we are doing, I have been working behind the scenes on speaking to people of significant wealth to see if they would possibly either angel invest or become business partners, because all 3 options are on the table. Always we're getting from these people, this is amazing, this is important, this is necessary, this is needed. But those people, to this point, this is all pre-election actually, but to that point, we're all very much, but our funding is allocated. And that's fair. No one's entitled to anybody's investment or anybody's input. But just to put the absolutely nuts and bolts into it so you guys understand. And look, let me put it this way. I don't need any kind of sort of like, thank you so much for doing what you've done. I've done this because I've wanted to do this. I've done this because I love this. So what I'm about to say now doesn't need any kind of response from you. This is a family meeting sitting around the dinner table. I'm just telling you what's going on. Doing this has I probably put between $10,000 and $12,000 of my own money into this to make it for this year. I was lucky, oh God, that would have come out wrong. I was lucky enough to lose my father in June. No, that didn't sound right at all. I was lucky enough to have a little bit of money after Dad passed given to us, and some of that money went into this. So some of the inheritance that was left to me has gone into making this for this year. And I'm actually, again, there's no complaints. No one feel bad. I've done this because I wanted to do this. I couldn't think of what else I would have done this year. About a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, it kind of came to a head when I realized interest rates are going up. My mortgage is going to double once the interest rates go up. I've got a 14-year-old who needs braces next year. I would like to be living off more than $200 a week, which is about what I'm living off at the moment once bills are paid. And so I started applying for jobs. I didn't get them. I got one of those fantastic letters back saying, you were so good, but you didn't get it. And I sometimes think about, you guys know this, I sort of follow the universe. And sometimes when the universe shuts a door, they leave a window open. Because if I could wave my magic wand, it would be to be doing this for the foreseeable future. So when job opportunities come forward and I've had a look at them and I've applied for a couple and then they don't pan out, I kind of go, okay, universe, let's keep going here and see what's happened. But what we genuinely need for next year is funding. Now, funding comes in one of three ways. Now, and when I mean funding, just think about and don't turn off before I finish the full sentence because I'm not talking about this kind of money. But the platform was funded for 2 years. It cost $2 million. Reality Check Radio were looking for $5 million. So when I'm talking about funding, I'm not talking about 10 or 20 grand. I'm also not talking about $2 million. But I'm talking about funding for people to be able to pay their bills, to be able to live, to be able to get their kids braces, to be able to have the odd night out, to maybe have some savings in the bank. That'd be nice one day. And so funding means significant funding. And that happens one of 3 or 4 ways. It's either listener and viewer supported, and I don't think there is the capacity to have the level of funding that would need it for that to happen. It's advertising. And again, I don't think there is the level of advertising, although we'll talk about that in a second, available to us that would support that. Or there's investment. The truth is, all 3 of those is probably what we need. All 3 of them. We need to set up a system where we've got fantastic supporters by listeners and viewers, which we're getting. And this is another thing that Chewy said to me yesterday that I want to make sure you're really clear on. You guys who have bought merch and you guys who are patrons, you actually have probably kept this going. Because although I've been putting money into it, without that little bit of extra as well, it probably would have stopped. So thank you so much. None of this that we're talking tonight denounces or kind of puts you to the side saying, not good enough. It's not that at all. Actually, without you guys, this probably would have stopped 4 months ago. So it's been invaluable, and it will continue to be so. The other thing I want to say right in this moment is I'm not saying anything's changing yet, right? I'm not saying, so we haven't found anyone, so it's gone. This is us having a really honest family meeting with you to say we've got a couple of months to see if we can figure something out. Where was I? Funding. Yeah, so we're talking about significant funding. I mean, I don't need to talk numbers with anybody, but you think if the dream could come true of 4 full-time staff, what is 4 full-time wages worth? So there's a starting point for you to have numbers going around in your own head. So you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars to run it properly. Or if there's 2 full-time staff, plus enough to actually run it as well. So this is what I'm going to do. This is what we're going to do. I've started drafting a sort of a letter, and I'll even show it to you. This is not the final draft, so if anyone freezes the thing, goes and reads it, it might not be quite the same. But I've started drafting a bit of a letter, and it talks about BHN in 2024. You guys who are watching, you guys who are listening, have been the most supportive, amazing, I don't want to say audience because that sounds like I'm distanced from you, community that I've ever been involved in radio. We said to you, hey, why don't we try and get to number 1 of the charts? 24 fucking hours. You guys got us to number 1 on the charts.
Oh, that brought so much joy.
We said to you, hey, there's some merch going. And I watch Mr. Beast. You look to Mr. Beast and he sells literally hundreds of thousands of t-shirts. We've done like maybe 100 pieces of merch, which for us is just fucking choice. It's really, really good. So what I'm actually going to suggest is, and I'm just looking to see if I've read everything that I was going to talk about. Yeah, I think I have. Is that I'm actually going to throw the ball on some level to you. I would like to attempt to make this a true grassroots movement. And it means that if you know, and look, I'm not actually asking anything from you per se. This is not a pitch for, hey, you know where our Patreon is? Yada, yada. That's not a pitch for that, because as much as that's a lovely thing for all those fantastic people, that's not going to get us to being able to support 1, 2, 3, or 4 full-time salaries next year. It's just not. Now it's
been kind of like an emergency fund, really, isn't it? Like when your graphics card blow up, or
$600 my graphics card. Yeah, totally. Yeah. And it's helped a little bit along the way. And so I'm not also saying stop that, please don't. But at the moment, so what I'm going to suggest is I actually want to throw the ball to you. You guys have supported this from a grassroots movement for a long time. So now what I'm going to say to you is this: if you know someone who is in business, or if you're in business, different conversation, then what we can do is offer advertising packages, right? If you, well, I guess the thing about membership paywalls and listener supported, we can keep talking about that. So really it's only two things. We're looking for businesses to advertise. That's the first thing. But the second thing, and this is more difficult, but we're looking for investment. Now, I don't suspect there's anyone watching right now worth $300 million, unless you are. I know who you are. But it is possible that you might know someone who knows someone who knows someone who might consider investing or partnering with, or angel investing or something like that with us. And so I'm just going to throw the ball to you, and every other thing that we've asked of you guys, you've gone behind you. And so I'm going to do it again. I'm going to throw you the ball, and I'm going to make this document that I showed you a draft version of here. And if you want a copy of it, you can email us, and by the end of the week, I'll email it back to you. What this does is it talks through what's going on. Like this paragraph here, currently Pat is spending anywhere from 30 to 50 hours a week, 7 days a week, which is truthful, on BHN content. This includes all the setup, all the producing, all the pre-recorded interviews, all the editing of clips and commentary, all the relationship building, all the control of social medias and YouTube, and of course, sharing the time presenting with Chewy. Right? So that's my week, 30 to 50 hours every single week. Certainly before the election, it would have been closer to 50. And it's got some information about us. You know, we had a combined million views in the month leading up to, that's including TikTok, in the month leading up to the election. We had combined 40,000 audio downloads in that month as well. Talks a little bit about what we want to do, talks a little bit about what we can do. And it says this: we truly have a grassroots movement here for people who are concerned with a lot of areas of society that a national Act New Zealand First government would be dangerous for. Those include, but are not limited to, the environment, social services, a fair taxation system, renters' rights, beneficiaries, minority rights, LGBTI rights, and fertility. There'll be people out there who may be able to support us in business, who may want to invest, who those areas are incredibly important to. There is no one else in New Zealand doing what we're doing quite like we're doing it. I know that this is an important voice to have in this marketplace. I don't want to see it go anywhere, but I can't do any more than I'm already doing, and we need help. Now, one other thing, and then Chewy, I'm sorry, I should have let you speak. One other thing is, you can be assured that I'm still working my channels behind the scenes as well. Because one of the unfortunate things to come from this election win is it probably means we're more likely to get funding or find funding today than 6 months ago. Because if Labour had a swan back in and the centre-left alliance had kept going on, a bunch of those things that I just mentioned wouldn't have been as relevant to be concerned about. Because under a centre-left, left-leaning government, probably fertility wouldn't have been such an issue. Probably LGBTI issues wouldn't have been such an issue. You know what I'm saying? So actually there is more danger to New Zealand in those areas now. Man, Chewy, you are a drama queen and decide to cut out just at the right minute.
Yes.
So this is what I'm going to do, right? You guys have our email address. I'm actually going to set up a phone number as well. I've got a little Samsung A71 here that's going to live in my studio. I'll put this phone number out as well. It's not my personal phone, but it's going to be our phone. And you guys will be able to email us. The email is going along the bottom if you want to be involved. Look, If you know no one and you want a copy of that letter, email us, bighearingnews@gmail.com. We'll send you a copy. You will then know what's going on. And maybe you'll come across someone that can help us. Now, there'll be many in the media who think what we're doing is ridiculous and desperate. I actually think it would be the best story in New Zealand media of the last 20 or 30 years if a genuine grassroots movement came up and got this thing funded because this community needs to go on. Now, I'm not going to talk about what if we don't get the funding. That's not our focus right now. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to say this is where we're at today, and we're obviously going to be here until probably the 20th or something of December. But this will be a focus for the next month and a half or so to see what we can do, if anything. And if it doesn't work, we will approach that bridge when we get to it. But that's where we are tonight. And I guess that's me. I guess that's pretty much when I'm finished, Chewy. And I've said it all. You've read the letter. You know what's going on. What would you like to add?
I'm just going to underline a couple of things, right? When we started doing this, I was approached because Pat was looking for maybe a stand-up comedian who's somehow interested in politics, and I think about 7 people went, "Oh, that's Chewy," and it was just like we didn't know what it was going to be. We had some very vague ideas of, "Oh man, wouldn't it be awesome if we could get to the election?" Maybe, I still remember getting excited when there was more than 20 people live. And I was like, wow, that's so cool. And this year has just been phenomenal. People have really sort of caught on to what we're doing. But as Pat sort of covered, and this is a little bit of how the sausage is made, the lion's share of time that has been devoted to BHN has been Pat's. I work a full-time job. I don't have the luxury of yeeting my financial future on a product such as BHN. But my whole part of this is I turn up 10 to 15 minutes before the show. And
10 to 15? When have you ever fucking been here 15 minutes before a show? 10 to 15 seconds?
Wow, the boss is angry. But hey, a lot of the things that I have opinions on, it's either, it's just formed from my own browsing of world events and that sort of thing. So, I mean, when we're talking about it being a full-time job, just think what a fully weaponized Chewy with nothing but time.
Let me add. There are probably 10 things for this show that I don't have time to do. Right? There are probably 10 things for this show that I don't have time to do. So if we could figure out some magical way to get funding for 3 or 4 people, then straight away there's at least 3 other pieces of content I want to start, like immediately, because there's more content. There's more ability to get more stuff out. I've got more ideas. Chewy's got ideas. I mean, who doesn't want to hear the Angry Ginger Chewy podcast talking shit about, I don't know, anything? This Marxist Nazi fighting podcast.
The other aspects that I want to touch on is obviously this eats into after work time and that sort of thing. And I think in its current format, BHN is kind of unsustainable at this point. It's really hard for Pat to keep doing what he's doing. We don't have the news to sustain what we've been doing either. But we want to keep doing it because we think it's really, really important. When we've seen disruptors in the news commentary space and the public opinion space, and they're just crazy. Platform, Reality Check, all of those guys, and they're sticking their hands out for millions of dollars and getting it. They can put their thumb on the scale of public opinion, not just this election, the next. Like what we're doing is important, and I think it needs a space. And all of the feedback that we've got from people when we've sort of workshopped this is we've got great references now. We have academics and some quite heavy hitters going, yeah, man, you've got a product that no one else does. You're talking to an audience that is not touched by anybody else.
Yeah.
I think it's important. I really, really do. And it can't just be the right-wing guys with the fat wallets that get the airtime. The idea that actual, legitimate, serious politicians are stooping to go on the platform offends me on an almost molecular level. We need more dog on the fight. We want to be that dog.
Can I also just bring up one other thing? You're talking about those right-wing, outlets at the moment. Just think, and this is, I'm really proud of what we do. Like, I've worked in news and current events a lot of my career, right? So I think I'm qualified to say this. We do a really good job. Just think about the conversations at the moment around Gaza and Israel that would not be happening if we were not here. Now think about next year, 2024, Trump versus Biden. Think what conversations won't be happening if we're not here. Now, I'm not trying to guilt you into going, we have to be here. I'm just being blunt with you. Think about the platform or Reality Check Radio or News Talk ZB or the Herald minus, Simon Wilson, because he always does God's work. What they're going to be saying about Trump versus Biden next year. Because yes, there's other fantastic people doing what we're doing like Bomber, right? We love him. But Bomber does one show a week and he writes the rest of the time. There's no one else doing this kind of podcast format that we're doing like we're doing it in New Zealand at all on this side of the political spectrum. So,
that was one of the things that we got out of our discussions with TVNZ. And it's incredibly frustrating when we have a chat with a legacy media organization and they either completely don't get what we're trying to do, or they do get it and don't follow that thought through.
Yeah.
Like, you're talking to an audience that just doesn't listen to us at all. Cool. Do you want to talk to them?
Well, and we won't say which one, but someone within legacy media very high up, and I've told you guys this, says we're ahead of the curve in New Zealand. And we are. No one else is doing it. This is not uncommon in America. I know you guys watch David Packman and you watch Kyle Kalinske and you watch TYT and you watch, this is not uncommon in the US. It's uncommon in New Zealand. No one else. That's pretty uncommon. And without, I don't want to make this sound desperate at all either, but without us, then there's no one. There's a void. So we don't need to push that any harder for what that is, but that's the reality. And I just want to, I couldn't think of anything nicer than turning this into a grassroots movement of something that could actually be sustainable, that you guys have some kind of ownership in. We always say to you, this is how you can support us. One of the ways is you can tell people about us. You can share our clips. You can do this, you can do the other. It doesn't always have to be financial. And this is the way you can do it as well. If you email us, bighairynews@gmail.com, say you want to try and help, we'll send you that document when it's finished. I might finish it tomorrow, do a couple of read overs it and get it done properly. And we'll just go pass it on. Pass it on to your uncle who runs a nationwide brand of something that wants to do advertising. I know advertising because I worked in radio for long enough. I know what they pay for advertising in radio. We would charge exponentially cheaper and likely reach more people. Just remember that the month leading up to the election, we had 1 million video views. Local radio, now we're national obviously, but local radio has maybe 5,000 to 10,000 viewers, and you won't get away with less than listeners. You won't get away with for an advertising plan of less than like $1,000 a month, $1,500 a month, and they get to 3,000 or 4,000 people. We can. I mean, being honest, it's not 1 million at the moment because obviously we had a spike before the election, but hundreds of thousands of people. We are a viable outlet for advertising for businesses, and we're happy to work with people. I'm happy for a business to come along and go, not quite sure. And I'll go, well, let's give it 2 weeks and see what happens. And then what we'll do, if you guys want to support us, is we'll come to you and go, hey, these guys are involved with us. They want to support us. How you support us is to go with them. Is to go, if you're looking for coffee, then this company, get your coffee from this company because they want to support us. You can support us by getting your coffee just from company X now. That's how it works. Sorry, Joe.
Yeah. Look, I cast my mind back to when I was a baby copywriter working for a radio network that I won't name. And, as a 21-year-old idiot that had barely passed his Polytech course, one of the clients that I had to write ads for was spending $1 million a year. And he was advertising, this is a product that everybody needs. Caravans. So what we need
$1
is
million
caravan
bucks
money.
on caravans. Holy mackerel.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't want to drag it out for
I lost that contract, by the way.
I don't want to drag this out for too much longer, but let's just say thanks to some people. And look, this wasn't a pitch for today's cash. Actually, what this is a pitch for is for your help to find some money. That's really what it is. You are being anointed as BHN salespeople. That's actually what we're saying. And you're either selling to a business you're selling to your own business, or you're finding someone who knows someone who knows someone who knows someone that's got a bunker in Wanaka, who's left-leaning, obviously, and who wants to see less mis and disinformation go through New Zealand society. That's what it is. So making it really sure I'm not pitching for your $3 today, but thanks to Spiderhoof. In the first instance of support, you should maybe ask your community who wants to volunteer to do those 2 extra roles. Not all will be able to help dollars-wise, but will have the talent to edit, etc. I agree with that. But here's the thing, right? And this is something I've thought long and hard about. We could do a GoFundMe, and who knows, maybe we'd make 20, 30, 40 grand, which would be fucking amazing. But that won't help the cause for needing full-time workers here. I mean, the other idea of other people coming on board and helping out doing some of the jobs, amazing. But it won't help me put braces on my daughter's teeth next year. You know what I'm saying?
Unless
I'm not
that volunteer as a home
unless you're
dentist.
a dentist.
Yeah.
But so I'm not coming to you and going, I can't be asked. It's actually, conversation's been going on for 6-8 months behind the scenes. And it's just very evident to me. I want to be able to go and hire a technical director and pay them properly and get them to do all that technical work that I'm doing. I want to go and be able to hire a journalist and pay them proper money to get them to start producing and working in a journalistic field for us. You know, and I know from having worked with some charities before that when you pay people little or nothing, then when times get busy, those people put those jobs to the bottom of the list. Doesn't mean volunteers aren't amazing. Doesn't mean your help's not amazing, but I know how it works. I've done it for long enough to know how it works. So we're just going to say to you bluntly and obviously now, we need to be able to fund this properly, correctly. Not because we're arrogant, not because we can't be asked, because this is the only way it can work. You know, 1, 2, 3, 4 full-time salaries and some operational things is what we need. 4 full-time salaries and then advertisers might be the way it happens, or 3 full-time salaries and listener support and advertisers, you know, but that's what we're looking at. JC says, BHN is well needed right now. Let's make it happen. Great. Thank you for the $5. Rajan says, a name for Chewy's podcast is Chewing the Rich. Or someone else said, I like this one from Gareth, Chewing the Fat. Nice one. And £5. Look at that. That's about 300 New Zealand dollars, isn't it? But also push your Patreon and make sure the link is in the description of every video. I'm frustrated not being able to send you money regularly. Lovely. Yes, look, and the other thing is, this is the listener support thing. You know, should this all move forward and happen, then there will certainly be a much greater focus on giving patrons and supporters extra content. I know it's a little bit of focus now, but this just comes down again to man hours. I can only do so much. But should we be able to do this, then patrons, who knows, maybe we'll go to an hour of live TV and an hour live internet broadcast free and an hour to patrons only or something. Don't know. But I see it as kind of a three-headed target, and that's listener support, advertising, and investment. That's how I see it working. But there may be other ways to skin the cat. If you know of someone. Oh, the other thing I guess I should say, sorry, Joey, is if also people know or are anyone who is specifically involved with fundraising. You know, a fundraiser is a job, is a skill set. Send them our way as well. Have them talk to us. I think I'm done. I feel like we've talked about this for too long now, but that's. I don't think I've got anything else, Chewy, unless you've got.
I'm not going to beat the horse anymore. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's the family meeting. I was going to make a clip out of this so other people could say, but I think we've talked for like 25 minutes. It feels like it's too long. Maybe I'll cut it down and turn it into like a 5-minute conversation. But I guess the thing that I've realized, you know, I've done radio and stuff for a long time, and you always have a loyal audience, you know, your regulars, but there's something different here. I don't know quite what it is, but there's something different. This is a literal grassroots community, and I just feel like you guys are invested enough already. You might as well come all the way in. and then we'll see what happens. So 2024, funding is needed to continue on as it is. Anything other than that, that conversation is for another day. There you go.
Nice.
We done?
Yep.
And then there is that email address at the bottom, bigheronews@gmail.com. Like I said, I will set up a phone as well. And that'll be primarily like if someone who knows someone who knows someone who knows someone wants to get a hold of us, they'll be able to do it through all the social media channels, but there'll be a phone set up with probably text messaging available, but that'll be about it. And it's a people who are worried about it in the chat already, it's a prepaid SIM card. So if it went bananas and I'll just break it in half and get another one, it's not a big deal. Alrighty, guys. Hey, thanks for joining us. Hopefully that wasn't too big and too heavy for you at the end. We've told you we wanted to share with you. You've been nominated to be BHN sales reps, advertising executives, sponsorship finders. Remembering that I'm still going to keep doing it as well, and Chewy works his connections as well. But other than that, I guess we're done. I will see you tomorrow night. Chewy, all the best for your procedure tomorrow. It'll all go swell and fine, I'm sure. You'll have that fantastic time of coming out of general anaesthetic, which is always fun. And make sure your missus videos.
I've been promised an ice block.
Get a nice block ice block. They can come and sponsor us. All right, guys. We're done. It's been a pleasure. It's been fine. I was scared about this conversation because it feels very strange coming from a commercial sector to start to talk to people about what this really is now. But that is it for tonight. I'll see you tomorrow night. Maybe we'll see Chewy on Thursday, but if not, Chewy, obviously we'll catch you next week, hopefully, depending on how you're feeling on Thursday. We'll leave that ball in your hands. And other than that, we're done, folks. Kia ora whānau. bigheronews@gmail.com if you want to know anything else, if you want any other information. Other than that, we'll be back tomorrow night from 9 o'clock. Remember, we've got the Dunedin Jewish community coming on board to talk about their letter in support of the Muslim community. And I'm thinking we might try and get Anna Brooks on. I haven't confirmed that yet, but I might try and get her on to talk about this fifth wave. And that'll be tomorrow night from 9. Love you to bits. We'll catch you tomorrow from 9. That is us for tonight, team. Hooroo.